They did it. They actually did it. They made a movie worse. I can't believe I'm saying this, but worse than Last Jedi. We're gonna make one minor change there. Okay, perfect. Yes, we are going to be spoiling Rise of Skywalker. Thomas Potts is in the house. Thanks for coming by. We're going to give folks a little bit of time to get in here. Hope everybody has had a good evening. If you've already seen the movie, do me a favor. Let me know in the chat if you have. If you are watching this after the fact, because this will be available for streaming, watching after the fact, let me know in the comments section what your order of Star Wars movies is, as far as your favorite to your least favorite. There are going to be a lot of hot takes in this video, a lot of feedback, and overall, just this is going to be group therapy for me, guys. That's the best way I can put it. So we've got Thomas Potts. DOA is in here. Nothing Star Wars has made is worse than the Christmas special. Lies. That is a lie. Thomas with $2 already in the chat. See, told AT Ray is his daughter. Thomas, go ahead, pick yourself a super chat reward from 1 to 11, because around here we turn things up to 11. And there is the notice from about Thomas's super chat reward. Who else do we have popping in? Mike McCarthy, it was garbage. We will be getting into it in a little bit here. Changing to live chat. Got to make sure that I do that. Let's see. Piano D's in the house. Do you think some serious what went wrong documentaries will be made about this entire trilogy? I do. And Thomas has selected super chat reward number 5.
It's a fake. It's real. It's a fake. It's real.
You know, I heard the audio come through my speakers. Let me know if it came through in the chat or not, because I actually, well, you know what I can do here? I can hear it here in just a second. Josh Street says, DJ and Sci-Fi Nation say they are Furies. All right, good. Audio came through. So I'm going to just remute that again there. So yeah, going to give folks just a little bit more time. Again, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion of the Rise of Skywalker. And first things first, I do have to say that, without a doubt, 100%, well, 95%, Doomcock was right. What he had from his sources, except for one thing, was spot on. Looks like we may have had some updates to the chat. Sounded fine to me. All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate that. Again, we're trying to do the whole multi-streaming between both Twitch and YouTube, so we may have a few things that pop up from here and there. Let's see. Thomas says, I haven't seen the movie, but I don't mind spoilers. All right. Captain MKG says it did. Thomas said, sound fine. Awesome. Furies, not Fury. It's 2 R's. Mike McCarthy, it is the best episode of Star Trek of all time. But let us dive into, we're going to do a combination of kind of plot synopsis, kind of a deep dive. If you guys have questions as we go along, Star Trek greater than Star Wars, moderators, please do me a favor and ban Mike McCarthy, because we don't need that kind of crazy talk around here. So this is your final warning. I'm talking spoilers. I will be talking about everything that happened in the movie. And we're going to get started. The opening crawl, the one that has been floating around, it was exactly what the leaks were. Word for word, it was what they talked about. They give away right in the crawl that Palpatine's back. They talk about how voices are coming back from the dead. The thing that they never address, and this is one of many criticisms that I have, is the fact that they never addressed how he came back, if this is the actual Palpatine, if he survived the Death Star 2 blowing up, or if he was a clone. They never address where he came from. They imply a few things. They show that he's connected to a life support droid. Um, it's weird, the device that they have him connected to. A lot of ways, I mean, even the planet names were correct. So Exegol, for example, is the planet that Palpatine has been hiding out on. I wish they would have tied in from the Clone Wars. I can't think of the name of the planet now. But when Master Yoda goes and talks to the Wills and learns the secret of living after death. What was it? It wasn't Malastare. It starts with an M though. Someone in the chat, let me know. Sean, how you doing? Thomas Potts says he came back the same way the Borg Queen does. Yeah. Captain MKG, after seeing the review, I don't need to see Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. Time to go ahead and start our group therapy. Dr. Rock Solid is in the house to help us through that horror. That is absolutely correct. We are here. I kept thinking throughout this movie of the prequel trilogy, and actually thinking of the Phantom Menace, or maybe it was Attack of the Clones. No, it was Attack of the Clones. This is how Liberty ends, with thunderous applause. This is how this trilogy ends, with attaboys and thumbs up to Kathleen Kennedy, to J.J. Abrams. Congratulations, J.J. Not only did you, by the way, I'm going to be very blunt here. I'm going to be dropping F-bombs, so just as a heads up there. Way to go, J.J. Not only did you fuck up Star Trek, you fucked up Star Wars. Way to go, asshole. So let's get back on track. Let's actually talk kind of in the way that the story itself starts out. We had seen the scene. We saw the scene in the very first teaser trailer with Kylo Ren battling on like a red planet and whatnot, where he was kicking ass, taking names, throwing people down to the ground. That's in the first couple minutes of the movie. I mean, that is the first scene of the movie, and that is where Kylo Ren indeed finds the Wayfinder. Why not just call it like the Wayback Machine or something like that? Because this is just the not only dumb name, he connects it to his TIE fighter using RCA jacks. I shit you not. He connects the Wayfinder to his TIE fighter the same way you would connect your NES to your CRT TV, using frickin' RCA jacks. And it takes him from the planet that he's on to Exegol, where the Emperor is still alive and well. And again, it's never explained how or why he survived, if it's the real deal, so on and so forth. One of the last trailers where you hear the Emperor say to Kylo Ren, "I am the voice that you have been hearing in your head." Every voice, and he goes through from Snoke to Vader, to every voice he's ever heard that we saw in that trailer. That's in the movie. I wish they wouldn't have given it away. It was actually really neat. My wife turned to me and said, "Did they really get James Earl Jones to record those couple lines?" Sure did. And basically what happens very early on is Palpatine is the new Snoke, for lack of a better term. Even though that Kylo Ren is the supreme leader, you have him now answering to Palpatine. Why? Because he has this huge Imperial fleet that's been sitting in the ice for decades, since, because he's been planning for this since day one, that, he is going to go ahead and, utterly obliterate the galaxy, take control, so on and so forth, that he was going to be the ultimate power in the universe. It's actually kind of funny. I just realized that was actually a line from A New Hope. This battle station is now the ultimate power in the universe. From there, we go to Rey training with Leia. And make no bones about it, they are calling Leia a Jedi Master. No, 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 no. So she's running through the forest on the planet they're on. It is not Endor. I forget the name of the planet they're on. Doesn't matter. It might as well be Endor. It looks like Endor, smells like Endor. But she's running the training course. And again, she has her telepathy with Kylo Ren, where they have a Force phone call across the cosmos. Where basically Kylo again, I reached my hand out. You should have joined me. Let's see, DOA. I foreshadowed Ben returning in this as Ben Mind Blown. That's coming, DOA. Patience, Padawan. She gets tripped up as she gets distracted and whatnot. The one thing in this scene and throughout the movie, I have to say the one thing that I was caught off guard by was the dark nature and the anger that Rey projected. She was pissed throughout the whole movie. And if she wasn't pissed, she was crying because she was pissed. Let's see, Thomas. Wait, the movie has smell? Well, it stinks. It stinks. Listen, do you smell that? Ghostbusters reference there. DOA, I already read the whole plot. I got chills. Don't get chills. No. Let's see, but when you hit it, there's one thing you still don't understand. All right. And while Rey is training, we find out that Chewie and Poe are in the Falcon with R2. They actually used R2-D2 in this movie. With R2 and then some other slug-looking creature to, there's an Imperial spy or a First Order spy, and they have to get information from this First Order spy. Communication, beam the information across. I mean, there was, I don't know, the way that they, going back to Rebels, Fulcrum, just, open lines of communication and everything. And but no, they actually have to meet this person who has information vital to the Resistance, and it's supposedly a mole inside the First Order. Jeremy, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Don't know that I've seen you here before. Just want to say welcome. Again, for those coming in late, this is going to be a spoiler. I'm going to go through the whole plot of the movie. They get the information downloaded into R2 from the spy, and then they head back to the Resistance base. And this is where we see Carrie Fisher, General Organa, for the first time. And it hit me as we were driving home. So Black Dynamite with the $2 donation there. If oranges are orange, why aren't lemons yellows? That is a good question. Black Dynamite, you do get a super chat reward, by the way. And also, first time I think that I have seen you in the chat. Do me a favor. You get a super chat reward. Please pick a number from 1 to 11 if you want to see one of our awesome super chats. But we see General Organa, and I'll keep an eye on the chat here as well for your choice. It reminded me of the episode of South Park where Chef got killed. By the way, spoilers, Chef gets killed in South Park. Where, you've got Isaac Hayes who doesn't want to be a part of it anymore because of their episode where they took on Scientology. So they just remixed all of the different, lines that Isaac Hayes had recorded over the years. I want to have sex with the children. It wasn't that staccato and broken up, but it was not. There are a lot of times, and where I'm going with this is the way that in South Park they got around it was they had basically the children and other characters delivering lines of exposition, and you would have chefs say, "That's right," or or something like that. And a lot of times that's what they did with Carrie Fisher. Um, they were against a rock and a hard place, quite honestly. And again, Black Dynamite, you've got a super chat reward coming to you. Pick a number between 1 and 11. We'll play one for you. Number 5. Second time tonight.
It's a fake. It's real. It's a fake. It's real.
God, I wish this movie wasn't real. I will tell you that right now. It's so bad. Please, why could this not be not real? They did the best, I think, with what they had. The her involvement in the movie was tasteful, and they wrote her out in an okay fashion. Finally, Rey comes back after what she was doing with her training to meet up with Poe and with Finn, and they are busting on Rey terribly. The fact that she's on the planet, and Black Dynamite just subscribed too. Thank you, I appreciate it. And talking about how they have some struggles out there. She is their best pilot because she is Wonder Ray, the super girl who can do everything because she's the most bestest Jedi ever. Doomcock there. I don't do a good Doomcock. But I will say that there's a point that she's being spread thin because she does have to do her training. She has to take up the mantle of the Last Jedi now because she's it. They find out that there is basically this wayfinder. They find out and they decrypt that there is such a thing, but they find out that there is a second one because of course there is. And they have to find out where it is, and the last place that they found it or knew of it was a sand planet. It's the one that we saw the ad. They fly now, 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 they fly now. Hey, did you know that they fly now? Guess what? They fly now. DOA says, I'm sure it could have been way better if she was still alive for this. I do agree, and that's something that they were in a corner. I mean, there was nothing that they could do to help that. She's basically the female Luke, more or less, mixed with Anakin. Give in to the dark side, boy. Do it. So they decide that they're going to go find this wayfinder thing because they got word that the Emperor is back. He's a real thing, and that they have this massive fleet somewhere in the unknown regions of space. Out to this point. Originally, Rey's going to go on her own, but then Finn and Poe say that they're going to go with her. Chewie goes with her, so they go to this sand planet who has, there's this wonderful festival that happens once every 42 years. And when I heard that line once they got to the planet, the first thing I thought of was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because 42 is the answer to the universe and everything, right? So they go through and they're trying to find directions to this individual who had supposedly had this wayfinder and hidden it on this planet, or was searching for it on this planet. And it was something that Luke had actually been searching for. We're going to get references to a lot of things that Luke had been doing that would have been a hell of a lot better than either The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker. I'll tell you that much. If you do have questions while I'm going through this, please let me know. I will answer chats as I can. I will not pull a Bird of Prey 5 or an anti-tracker and get behind in the chat. I will tell you that for sure. So they go ahead and head to this planet, and you have Kylo taking the pieces essentially of his smashed helmet and having someone put them together. You also have the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren do things in this movie. One of the things they do not do, any lines of dialogue. Nothing. You have no information as far as their backstory, who they are, what they are, where they came from. There's been rumors that they were Luke's students on the at the Jedi Temple and whatnot that Kylo burned down. We never find out who the hell these people are. DOA, when you get to the part about Leia's saber, let me know as you're still confused about that. Okay, that's going to be towards the end. And yes, Leia does have a lightsaber. So they're going ahead, and Kylo is there, and he's putting his helmet together, and he's also in communication still with Rey telepathically, and also with the Emperor telepathically. And once he has his helmet back together, he puts it on and goes into basically a board meeting with the other generals involved with the First Order. And basically Kylo's laying it out and saying, hey, Emperor's back again, go tell a friend. And first of all, you've got Hux who asks questions about the helmet and whatnot, kind of being a smart ass. And oh no, I like the helmet, and then another officer, oh no, yeah, the helmet is great, love the helmet. But one of the other officers brings up the fact there at the table that what does the Emperor want? What's his end game? What Marvel? What's his play here? And instead of addressing it, Kylo Ren does what Kylo Ren does, and Thomas says Mary Mayhem says that someone mentioned the Emperor destroyed Luke's training base in the book, much like Anti-Trekker. I don't want to read a fucking book to understand a movie. Sorry. Son of a bitch. So he's taking out the individual at the table who had asked what the whole Emperor's play is. Force chokes him, throws him up on the ceiling, and basically kills him. To which everybody else around the table, oh, good plan, yay, Reylo. Back now to the Sand Planet where they're discovered by locals, and feeds the information back to the First Order. Surprising how the First Order has people everywhere, but everybody hates them. But they're everywhere that you never see. They try to go ahead and hide, and a helmeted figure kind of scurries them away into what I can best describe as a transport that simply looks like a single track on a sandcrawler. You get inside, and lo and behold, it's Lando. Plot convenience is convenient. Now, I love seeing Lando. I love the fact that Billy D. Williams has been involved in Rebels, lending his voice talents and everything. When I saw him here, the first thing I thought of was the first line of The Force Awakens. Look how old you've gotten. Now, by the end of the movie, except for Chewie, Lando's the only one of the original cast left. Keep that in mind, not counting droids. So Lando takes him inside, and they ask him, "Hey, we know who you are. You're General Calrissian. Join the fight again." "Oh no, my piloting days are over." Kind of get it, but at the same time, you know that's a something to divert you. He's going to be back. You just know it. The one thing too that Poe asked him is, back then, how did you do it? This is so overwhelming to us. How did you manage to do it? And Lando basically says, we just did it. Okay, way to go. We just did it. Because there is no armor more significant or stronger than plot armor. So they go ahead and they head out in the desert and try to avoid these sand troopers, I guess would be the best way that I would describe it. So they're running away from these stormtroopers, First Order troopers, and this is where the they fly now line and everything comes in, as they're trying to find the way to where this wayfinder and everything is hidden. Clayton, welcome. Just saw it, thought it was pretty good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I did not. Let's see. DOA says it's ironic how the thing I'm confused comes from a non-canon book saga in a sense. That's a Han moment if I ever heard of one. Yes, kind of the Lando's reaction of, we just did it. The plot armor is strong with this movie. It's extremely strong with this movie. The one thing that the flying troopers reminded me of, quite honestly, was Mandalorians. Especially if you've watched Rebels, if you've watched the Clone Wars, it reminded me a lot of how the jetpacks worked on the Mandalorians. And even if you haven't seen those, Boba Fett flying around in Return of the Jedi, that was something that I felt that it very much was inspired by. They wind up, parts of these scenes reminded me very much of the Phantom Menace and pod racing, especially as they are on these two skiffs. So the team is split up into two teams where you have Poe piloting one, Rey piloting the other. It's amazing that they were able to steal these skiffs and just happen to know exactly how they fly, how to pilot them, their capabilities, and everything like that. Question: which do you hate more, this movie or Jar Jar? I don't hate Jar Jar. He served a purpose, and I don't. Jar Jar was not a bad character. He was. What's the best way to put it? People hate the Ewoks. They do. I never hated the Ewoks. I thought the Ewoks were a great symbol of, you didn't need, if you had cunning and determination, you could defeat a technological terror. Jar Jar was the Song of the South character, for lack of a better term. People took exception with him because he was clumsy and dopey and whatnot. He was really what 3PO and R2 were in the first trilogy. And I can't remember, and someone in the chat, if you remember the name of the Japanese movie that Lucas took inspiration on, it's the something samurai. I remember that. And one of us kind of like a bumbling, doltish idiot. So I didn't hate Jar Jar. Jacob Henson, they should have taken a lesson from the Legends books and make Palpatine a clone instead of not explaining how he survived. I agree. I don't even care that they didn't make him a clone. I just would have liked an explanation. Was he the real? Was he Palpatine Prime? Let's call it the original Palpatine. Was he a clone? It's never addressed. Let's see, Clayton. There were holes in the story. I guess The Last Jedi set up something nobody wanted. I'd rather have Snoke as a villain, though, but I'm glad Rey was a Palpatine. Clayton, Jar Jar sucked, but I enjoyed episode 1 more than Attack of the Clones. I think most people would agree with that. The first person to agree, he served a purpose. 3 was and is still your favorite film. That's not very common. I will tell you, I don't hate it like others do. Dan Brosman, the Cubs suck, but I'm glad to see you in the house. Kind of like when Ray just knows how to use the Force. Yes. Retro Sis, welcome. I don't know I've seen you here before. It's the hidden fortress he took inspiration from, not Seven Samurai. Okay, yeah, but you knew what I was talking about. I'm glad that you got that reference at least. Let's see. DOA says, said how Force Unleashed was a more consistent story than this saga. But was it? Fun game. I don't know that it was a great story. So back to Rise of Skywalker. One thing I'm going to kind of pause here too. I know one of the concerns after The Last Jedi was how woke that movie was, except for one scene towards the end of the movie. This really didn't feel that woke. It just felt like a bad movie. So on the planet, they go ahead and they manage to defeat the 4 troopers because you've got the most wanted, at least from the First Order standpoint, the most wanted villain in Rey on the planet. We're going to send 4. Woo! They defeat them, and they end up, their skiffs end up blowing up. They get tossed from them and everything. And they wind up in what I can best describe as what looked like kitty litter. And I'm like, oh, this is quicksand. They're going to fall through it. Sure enough, they fall through it into underground tunnels. And they're wondering what happened with these tunnels, what could have made them, and whatnot. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking sandworms or the graboids from Tremors. something like that. And sure enough, there is a giant worm snake thing that, they, um, they're threatened by. Finn or Poe wants to kill it right away. Finn, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to blow my nose real quick. I apologize. 1 second here. I'm right here anyways. So. Sorry about that. How do you make a hanky dance? You put a little boogie in it. Let's see here. Thomas says 3 and 6 are his favorite Star Wars. I would agree that 3 was my favorite of the prequel. 6 was my favorite overall. Clayton, I hope we get a Shadows of the Empire cartoon movie at least. The DC Universe movies do really good fan service. No, it did not feel like the Sarlacc DOA. Jacob Henson, they also didn't explain if Rey will rebuild the Jedi Order or what, and how she has an orange lightsaber. We'll talk about that in a little bit, or in a bit here, Jacob. DOA, probably different planet. Bless you. Actually, it's yellow, Jacob, not orange. True. Clayton says, totally, Jacob. I think they will take a break from movies for a bit, but the billions of dollars they spent, there will be more someday. And we'll talk about that too. So they go ahead and they find, this worm and whatnot, and Poe wants to blow it up. Rey's like, no, I got this. Finn's like, let her get it. 3PO's like, what the hell is that? And they go ahead and they, this is the first time we see Force heal in a movie because the worm thing is injured. So Rey, the most powerfulest Jedi ever, goes ahead and heals the worm's injuries. So he lets them pass into another room. Convenient door is convenient. And inside there, we find the Sith dagger. And 3PO is handed it and asks, can you translate it? Well, no, I can't. I can read it, but I can't translate it. I am forbidden by my programming to actually read and translate this for anybody else. Retrosys says they released a new episode of Mandalorian early to show that the Force healing was now canon. It really was out of left field otherwise, although you do see Baby Yoda try to heal Mando in the second. Yes, you are. That's when that scene happened. That's what I thought of was what they did in Mandalorian, which aired yesterday. So they go ahead, they find the Sith dagger. 3PO says he recognizes the markings. He calls them out as Sith markings, but says his programming will not allow him to translate it. That there's something that it's not just that he doesn't want to translate it, his programming will not allow him to. And that's where we find out that there is another planet that DOA, they actually mentioned that he believed that the programming came from the Senate. So there is some discussion of it right there. Not great discussion. It's more like a passing, and there's a lot of other dialogue going on. So it's easy to miss. I will say the first half of this movie, it was terrible. It was so, I don't know how you can have a movie that feels rushed and hurried that drags. But this movie did it. It felt like it was moving at a snail's pace, but yet flying along. I don't understand. But again, Jar Jar Abrams, way to go. You fucked up another series just like you did Star Trek. So they decide that they're going to take 3PO to this other planet where they know someone who can actually, is a droid hacker, for lack of a better term. From here, we get a scene where Kylo is talking to Palpatine via the space telepathy. Now, here's my problem with this. We know that the Emperor spoke to Vader. in the first trilogy. We know that the Emperor spoke to Darth Maul in the prequels. We know that he talked to Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku. And they had to use holo transmitters for all of that. That could be traced. It could be intercepted. But here, no, we just decided that for the hell of it, we're just going to go ahead and we can telepathically communicate with each other across the cosmos. Oh, hi, sorry. So again, it's one of those where Palpatine is starting to feel like Kylo is going to betray him, just like his grandfather did, because of course he will. We get, again, it's back and forth, and they land on the planet and everything where 3PO is going to have his mind read. Grim Monolith, welcome. Also saw the morning movie. It was like a Highlander sequel. Expand on that, because I have not seen any of the Highlander movies, so I'd be interested on your take on that, if you don't mind sharing a little bit there. They land on this planet, and it is like covered with First Order troops, and someone gets the drop on Poe. And Poe, when they say, oh, I got to go back real quick. So before they leave the sand planet that looks like Tatooine and Jakku, but it's not Tatooine or Jakku, because as we all know in the Star Wars universe, planets only have one climate. So they're in a ship, and Rey realizes this is the ship that she was dropped off on Jakku in. And in this scene also, as they're trying to get the ship ready to go, Rey kind of feels something funky going on, so she goes out to take a look at what's going on. And they're ready to leave. They send Chewie out to get her, and they're all working on this other ship because they can't get back to the Falcon. The Falcon's going to have troops around it and whatnot. And this is where the scene that we saw in the trailer where Rey backflips over the TIE fighter and everything takes place. Before this part happens, though, we see that Chewie, who had gone out to try to get Rey so that they can all get the hell out of Dodge, Chewie's been captured by the First Order and taken into a transport. Rey does her magic backflip thing and cuts off the left wing of the TIE of Kylo Ren. He comes out of the wreckage, no injuries, no bumps, no bruises, no nothing, carrying his helmet, just like, I'm here, what the hell. And then Finn does the most Finn thing that Finn can do, and he yells, Rey, because that is the only thing Finn can do, is yell, Rey, or no. That's the other thing he can do. He's got no, he's got Rey. And Rey turns around, and because Finn saw Chewie get captured, so, Finn yells that, hey, Chewie's been captured, go, we got to stop him, we got to get going. And so Rey tries to use the Force to bring the shuttle, the transport, back to the ground. And then Kylo is there, and he is also trying to, fight her, essentially, for the shuttlecraft. And they're struggling. And this is the first of a few times in this movie that it reminded me of Harry Potter. All of a sudden, in their struggle, they might as well have had wands in each other's, in their hands, trying to fight for the shuttle. Rey sends out a blast of Force lightning. Yeah, because Jedi use Force lightning, right? No. But again, plot convenience is convenient. So she blows up the shuttle, kills everyone on board, including Chewbacca. This was the first point in the movie where I got really pissed off. Like, I was fuming mad that they killed Chewie. So at this point, the crew and everything heads to go try to get 3PO. They get off the planet. They go to get 3PO translated. They go to the planet where all the First Order troops are. Highlander sequels were all awful, contrived stories. Each movie just destroyed and rewrote canon and retcon the original movie. The original was a absolute classic. I can understand that. DOA, another thing I don't follow is who the hell is the son of Palpatine as only one to exist from a non-canon book, but the son is illegitimate. We will get to that in a little bit. So as they are flying to this planet where, they're going to have 3PO hacked, Rey starts having visions of her parents because Kylo in one of his Force communications is saying that, actually, no, we're not there yet. They get to the planet. They find, the Kerry Russell character gets the drop on her. I can't remember what her character's name was. The only bit of Kerry Russell that you see is a little bit of her eyes later on. Video game lover 58, welcome. Thomas, they should have killed everyone but Rey. I disagree with that and think they should have done the inverse, but I'll get to that towards the end here. So on this planet, they find, the Kerry Russell character, it's found out that Poe was not always this noble, brilliant, amazing pilot. And Thomas wants to know who the hell was Palpatine's wife. I agree. So Kerry Russell gets the drop, brings up the fact that Poe used to be a spice runner. Finn kind of gives him a hard time for that and everything. Calls him Finn the spice runner and all that. So she decides that she's going to help them because essentially Rey kicks everybody's ass because she is the bestest Jedi ever and has Kerry Russell's character on the ground, lightsaber drawn at her throat, and basically Kerry Russell's character says Mate, and I hope those of you who have ever seen Bloodsport get that reference. So she decides to help him and take him to, the guy who can hack 3PO essentially to bypass this programming. Now, there is one risk on this programming, and that is if it is done, it will wipe out all of his long-term memories. Now, this is Star Wars, which means nobody's ever gone for good. So they go ahead and they get him to this, get him to the person or to the creature who's all of about that tall. Does the hack. This is where the scene where we get the I'm taking one last look at my friends from the trailers came from. One interesting that they did do is as 3PO is kind of trying to justify what's going on and whatnot, Rey kind of stops him and says, well, nobody knows the odds better than you do. What do we need to do? And then that leads into the, his taking the sacrifice, willing to do it. Again, Poe is looking, or not Poe, Kylo is looking for the resistance. He's looking for Rey because, Master Palpatine said you had to go ahead and get the girl. And, they're finishing up the work on 3PO so he can translate the Sith dagger and everything. And one thing that was actually kind of funny was, hey, 3PO says, hey, I've got another idea on how we can do this. And the little creature shuts him off immediately. A couple seconds go by. 3PO powers up with the red eyes. He's not a combat droid. He's not a Sith droid. It's just his alternate, basically he's running the BIOS. And they're giving the information as far as he spouts off what the actual coordinates were, powers off automatically. Little dude powers him back up, and it's 3PO, but his memory is completely gone. Thomas wants to know, was that Maz woman in it who owned the bar in The Force Awakens? She was. She was with the Resistance. And Maz, we never find out how she got the Skywalker lightsaber. Thanks, JJ, for that part of the mystery box. Dreams of Divinity. I like the movie Light Years more than The Last Jedi, but it has its flaws. Not as bad as I expected. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I wanted to enjoy it. I just couldn't. I don't think it was a bad Star Wars movie. It was just a bad movie. Whereas I found The Last Jedi offensive in its politics and its wokeness. This, like I said a little bit earlier, I didn't think it had any of those aspects. I just don't think it was very well written or executed. I will say too, I didn't think the John Williams score was very good either. Um, and there's one scene where I'll talk about in a second, that there are certain scenes that were lacking music altogether, which seemed really out of place. Dreams of Divinity, were those guys around Palpatine real or ghosts? I don't know. They didn't explain that, like a lot of things. Um, I am I am working under the theory that they were the spirit of previous Sith lords who had come before them, because you have to remember the rule of two. So you wouldn't have more than two Sith lords at any one time. Now that they have the coordinates and everything from 3PO, he's been brought back to life, but basically is like he's brand new with no memory or anything like that. He's reintroducing himself to everybody. We find out that a little bit more about the what was her name now? Why can't Carrie Russell's character? That she and Poe basically had a pretty serious relationship in the past. They know each other intimately. They may know each other biblically, if you know what I'm saying. This is the only time that we see her where she, lets the visor up essentially on her helmet. We never see her without the helmet. But she's also stolen basically a high-ranking officer's credentials from the First Order, and that she's going to use that to get off of that planet. Retrosys says, I will say this, even The Last Jedi made me feel something. Seeing Luke face down Kylo as a force projection was so cool. Rise of Skywalker, I felt nothing the entire movie. I can understand that. Thomas wants to know what JJ would have done if Johnson didn't destroy the trilogy. I don't know that you can put it just on Rian Johnson. I think Kathleen Kennedy has a hell of a lot to answer for in this. So now that they have the basically the location of where they have to go to find this wayfinder, they get ready to make their way, and Rey winds up on the Star Destroyer, basically on Kylo's ship, as Kylo is on the surface trying to find the Resistance, trying to find Rey, Poe, Finn, so on and so forth. And part of the reason why she's there is she sensed, while they were working on 3PO, Chewie is still alive. When I heard this, I thought, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, JJ. We know that Lucasfilm in this Disney trilogy has not given a damn about these legacy characters. And you are going to toy with the fans' emotions like that? No, that was bullshit, and that didn't need to be done. So Rey goes up, and the whole team goes up to try to rescue Chewie. And while they're there, Rey realizes that the dagger, which Chewie had and was stolen when he got captured, was there, along with his bandolero and his what's his weapon called? His bowcaster was there. So she goes into to find that, while Finn and Poe go to find Chewie. Now, at one point, the jig is almost up before they split up, because a couple of stormtroopers find them, draw their weapons, tell them to hold it. And Rey uses the bestest Jedi mind trick ever. Convinces them that, they're supposed to be there, and in fact, these troopers should be glad that they saw them. And she convinces them to tell, Poe, Finn, and her where Chewie's at. And so they do that. While they're going to get Chewie, that's where she gets the, hey, the dagger's here, I need to go get that. So she goes off to Kylo's quarters, and Poe and Finn go to get Chewie. When Rey goes into, and Piano Dean, I'll get to your question, DOA, in a second. When Rey gets to Kylo's quarters, she sees the helmet from Darth Vader. She sees the bandolero. She sees the bowcaster. She sees the Sith dagger. Okay. It's at this point that another Force telecommunication brought to you by Sprint, ding, is, no, not really, but is brought up between her and Kylo. Piano Dean, is there really a scene where Luke's Force Ghost physically catches a lightsaber? Yes. I just did some research into the Palpatine history, and Ken comes up, and you know who Ken is in all these films? Don't know what you're talking about, DOA. So in this Force communication, brought to you by MCI, bing, no, long distance phone commercial jokes, folks. He tells Rey that he knows who she is and knows who her parents are. And he basically is telling her that, yes, she was given up and sold, but it wasn't for drinking money, like we were told in the last movie. It was because they were trying to protect her. Rey is the name the character Ken became, no joke. Ken who, DOA? I don't know who you're talking about. Kind of explains the situation and finally breaks down to her, the reason why Palpatine wants you so badly isn't to kill you, it's because you are his granddaughter. And, she's trying to, it's one of these that's not true, it's impossible from Empire Strikes Back, but it comes across flat. Now, keep in mind, they are speaking telepathically, and they have a fucking lightsaber battle. Are you kidding me? What? It's just all of a sudden, space and time and distance and position, none of it matters. And time doesn't matter in this movie, by the way. You go from here to there to there to there to there, and it's like no time has passed. You go back to the Resistance base, and it's like, oh, it's been like 20 minutes. Has anyone heard from anyone? When in reality, it should have been several hours, if not days. So they go ahead and they lightsaber fight. They knock down the pedestal that the Vader helmet was on, which didn't that get destroyed on Starkiller base? How the hell did that survive? Never discussed. Although I have plenty of disgust, I'll tell you that much. And they fight, they bicker, they go back and forth. Rey gets out of there and just, meets back up with the rest of the crew who had been, they were able to rescue Chewie, very similar to A New Hope, where they were running through the Death Star to try to get back to the Falcon. They're running back to try to get back to their ship. They get captured because they get overwhelmed. 18 Mets, welcome. I don't know, I've seen you here before. Personally would like Star Wars 6 more if Anakin and Luke would have kissed like Ryo. Yes. Luke and Leia smooched. Why not? Eesh. There is some incest reference at the end of this movie, by the way. So Finn and Poe and Chewie, they all get caught and they get brought in front of the the lead general there. It's not Hux. There's actually someone above him. It's the guy who was the lead villain in The Adventures of Hudson Hawk. I don't remember the actor's name or the character's name for that matter. Go ahead and we're going to execute him. And Hux goes with the 3 troopers to execute him. And it's one of those things that you see the turn coming a million miles away. But they bring up Hux, I want to kill these rebel scum myself. And he gets one of the blasters from the stormtroopers. And Poe and Finn are bickering back and forth about each other because Finn wanted to tell something to Rey when he thought that they were all going to die in that sand trap thing. Yes, there is more incest in the new trilogy, or at least implied. Finn, I'm not going to tell you what I was going to tell Rey and whatnot. This isn't the time or place. And you hear 3 blaster shots go, and you see all 3, Chewie, Poe, and Rey, duck like they're bracing to get shot. No, as expected, Hux was the mole the whole time around, as had been leaked. He is the one that had been sending the Resistance information, not because of the fact that he wanted the First Order to fall. He wanted Kylo Ren or Kylo Ren to die. Kylo Ray. That was an interesting Freudian slip. So he helps the trio get back to their ship, but it wasn't the ship that Rey was dropped off on Jakku on. No. You have to remember the First Order captured the Millennium Falcon. He takes him back there, and he turns to Finn before they go their separate ways, and he explains that's why he's helping them. And he says, "You've got to shoot me in the arm. That way, it looks like I was taken advantage of." And instead, he shoots him in the leg. Okay, fine. It makes him look like he, got bested. Now, as they are, as they are getting on the Falcon and getting the hell out of Dodge, Rey now is running back to the original ship because she has no idea that Hux has turned sides, and she's trying to get out of there to where they were at. It's never explained how 3PO and BB-8 and Dio, and by the way, we do meet Dio on the ship that Rey's parents were on, that was on Jakku. He just was powered off. BB-8 finds him, recharges battery. We have Dio. Cute character. Don't mind him. Didn't add anything to the movie. He was just there. He was the baby Yoda of the movie. So as Rey's trying to get out of the hangar, in comes Kylo Ren because he discovered through their Force phone call that Rey was on his ship. She gets surrounded and everything, and it very much had the vibe of the Vader Obi-Wan battle in Episode 4. Just because the troops were on the perimeter, Kylo was pontificating and talking about. So as Kylo is bloviating and everything, Rey is backing towards the force field that is protecting the hangar and basically keeping the atmosphere in, as they are on this Star Destroyer over the planet. They're still within the atmosphere. They're not in space. And all of a sudden, here comes the Falcon, going to turn around and blow its afterburners in towards the hangar, and everybody gets blown down. All the stormtroopers are down, except for Kylo and Rey, because physics don't matter if you are a Jedi or a Sith. Disney sacked Gary. Run. What's going on? I'm seeing everything still. What's going on? Am I not on anymore? I'm seeing myself on. Hello? Hello? Bueller? Bueller? Let me check my phone real quick because I had not been watching on my phone. I'll fire it up real quick here. Everything seems to be going okay on my end. Oh, I don't care about Bird of Prey 5. Okay, says that it's live. I'm seeing everything back. Okay. Weird. No idea. Well, it said that I had gotten a message in here that said that I was now live, or chat was working on through the chat bot and whatnot. I don't know what was going on with that. But anyways, so the Falcon basically blows down all of the the Falcon knocks down all of the stormtroopers and whatnot, and Rey jumps miraculously onto the Falcon. It keeps cutting in and out. Seems fine now. I've been watching you since that Hyperkin Duck Hunt video you did. Oh, thank you. Still working, not working. I'm seeing everything on my end. Not seeing any issues here. So refresh the page if you're having issues, guys. From here they decide that they're going to go to where these coordinates said that the second wayfinder was, because there has to be two. And that is a moon in the Endor system. This is where obviously we had seen the wrecked debris of the second Death Star and everything on the planet. They meet up with a group of people there, and here's from just a starship standpoint, as they're flying to this moon, we find out that We find out that the landing gear, for some unknown reason, is damaged and not functional on the Falcon. So when they come to this Endor moon, they don't just like belly land it. No. It's like the Force Awakens all over again, where they basically come skidding in. It's like that combined with Star Trek Generations when the saucer section crashes on the planet where Dr. Soren was at. We have seen the Falcon come in hot, fire its retro boosters and whatnot, slow down, hover, and just descend. There was no reason whatsoever to have this crash, except to force dialogue between Finn and one of the locals that just happened to have gotten a message from General Organa to let them know that they were coming to this planet. If she knew that they were coming to that planet, why the hell did they need to go to to the sand planet and then to the other planet to find out where in the fuck this other wayfinder was? Why? So Finn's talking to this native, and we find out that she and actually everybody on the planet used to be stormtroopers, and they were liberated, or not liberated as much as they had left the. Basically, they had left the First Order, and you know what I think happened, guys, is I may have a cap of only an hour that I can stream on Twitch, and doing the dual streaming is what's causing the issue. That could have been what it was. So sorry about that. Anyways, so through some exposition, we find out that again, everybody there used to be stormtroopers. They essentially went ahead and mutinied, and that's how come they're here now. Rey, they all come to a kind of a peak, and they're overlooking the ocean where the wreckage of the second Death Star and everything is. And Rey has this epiphany. I have this dagger. I need to take it out. And hey, what is this? This is a thing I can pull out. A lot of people have said it makes the Sith dagger look like a female. What's the best way to put it and not be too gross about it? It looks like a double-sided dildo. It's basically what it looks like. Party in the front, party in the back. Anyways, so she pulls this thing out, and she's taking the dagger and she's holding it across her eyes and across the where she's standing, and no shit, it actually lines up with the formation of rocks, and the thing that she pulled out that points right to where she's got to go. Amazing. Convenient plot point is convenient. The vaporized Death Star, which wasn't so vaporized. So now the locals are all saying we can go there in the morning. Seas are too rough now. We have to wait till morning. And the fabulous super ever Wonder Ray says, no, I got to go now. Everybody else is like, no, we're going to wait till tomorrow. All right, fine. And then they turn around and they're doing, they're working on fixing the Falcon and whatnot. And they're like, where's Rey? And then they find out Rey has actually left to go to the wreckage of the Death Star, because she is the bestest Jedi ever and can also pilot any craft ever made. And so she's heading to the wreckage of the Death Star. Is that Katie stopping by to say hi? There were, as she's in this skiff or whatever you want to call it, there are parts of A Perfect Storm, I think it was, with George Clooney, where they were on the fishing boat and it just kind of smashed the boat, where I was like, yes, smash the skiff. There needs to be some consequence. Nope, she makes it through because she is the bestest, most powerful Jedi ever. Gets through. By the way, about this time, just so you guys know, anti-trekkers should be watching the opening crawl. No problem, Katie. Have a good night. And she manages to find herself inside the second Death Star, and one of the things I will say is they did a very nice job of hearkening back to The Force Awakens with her jumping around inside that Star Destroyer. She was doing the exact same thing inside the Death Star too. There were bits and pieces as she's looking around in there. No, she doesn't rebuild the Death Star, Thomas. That would be too easy. Because she is the bestest, most powerful Jedi ever. She's going through there, and you're seeing some interesting things. The visuals were neat. You had stormtrooper helmets and armor just sitting there because the soldiers were vaporized when the Death Star blew up. It's kind of eerie. It's like walking through a gravesite almost. She goes through a couple doors and whatnot that she has to pry open, and then she comes to the Emperor's throne room. The Emperor's throne room. Did any of you know that the Emperor had a ready room as you're sitting in his chair that was kind of off to the right? Yeah. Yeah, there was a ready room there. And in that ready room was the extra wayfinder. Yeah. But the thing is, to get into this ready room, and I'm using a Star Trek term to describe something Star Wars, but there's just no other way I can describe it. It looked like a ready room. As she kind of just looks at it, the door just opens. She doesn't raise her hand to use the Force to open it. There's no power in this thing, so there's nothing that could have realistically caused it to open. It just opens because plot convenience is convenient. So she goes, she gets the wayfinder, and when she comes out of that room, before she comes out of that room, this is where she has the Dark Ray vision. And basically, Dark Ray tells Ray Prime, don't be afraid of yourself, don't be afraid of your powers, don't be afraid of what you can become. They battle for a little bit, and Ray Prime falls backwards outside of the ready room into the throne room, drops the wayfinder, and who would be there? Yeah, Kylo is there. Because plot convenience is convenient. He found her, knew right where she was, never explained how he knew, never explained how he found out. He was just there. So they jabber back and forth a little bit more and a little bit more, and Kylo again makes the offer of, join me, take my hand, we can both take down the Emperor and we can rule the galaxy together. To which Ray gets pissed, Ray gets angry, Ray says no. Kylo smashes the second wayfinder. Now she gets really pissed, draws her lightsaber, and initiates a lightsaber battle. This is where we see from the teaser trailers and everything that they were battling on like the stanchions and whatnot that were still above the ground or above the water in the trailers and everything. And it's not a bad lightsaber battle. It's not Obi-Wan versus Anakin. It's not Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But it's okay. The thing that shocked me about this scene was the lack of music. I was expecting Duel of the Fates. Didn't happen. Anything would have been good. There was no music during this part. Now, I don't know if it was the audio didn't quite seem spot on in my theater. May have been something going on there. But if this was a conscious choice that they didn't have any music during this battle, it was an odd play. While this fight is going on, we flash back to the Rebel or the Resistance base, and Leia lays down on her bed. quiet. Go back to Death Star 2, and they're battling back and forth and whatnot. And all of a sudden, we just hear a quiet Ben. Kylo stops, turns around, looks back towards where they had fought from and everything. And he sees Leia for just a moment. And when he turns around, Rey runs him through right below the rib cage, stabs him with her lightsaber, takes his. At this moment, we see, go back again to the Resistance base, Leia's hand flops against the edge of the bed. She died. No indication why. No indication that this was, she had force projected herself or anything like that to help Rey or anything. That's kind of what I'm thinking they're implying, but it's never really stated. So at this point, Rey feels, oh my God, Leia's dead. Lewis says this movie sucks. It is the weakest of the 9, I will say that much, Lewis. From here, Rey realizes that Leia's dead, takes Kylo's lightsaber, throws it in the ocean. Actually, no, she doesn't try. She just takes it. And, she reaches over to him as he's kind of, he's on death's door. And she force heals him and says that she felt Leia's death and everything. Gets in his TIE fighter, flies away. As, Kylo is kind of standing there and everything, we go back to the Resistance base. Folks are gathering around, realizing that Rey is gone, or that Leia's gone. From here, the Resistance fighters, so Poe, Finn, 3PO, everybody heads back to the Resistance base. As Rey went and did her own thing. At this point, we get another kind of flashback, and I don't know if you would call it a flat, if that's the right way to put it, if it was just a vision, if it was wistful thinking, I don't know. But it was almost a line-for-line remake, hey Linda, of the scene in The Force Awakens between Han Solo and Kylo Ren on the catwalk. On the catwalk. On the catwalk. Yeah, you're going to lurk a little bit on the catwalk. I'm going to grab another Coke real quick here. Oh, thanks, Linda. Let me know that I'm the one that puts you to sleep. Thanks. And it's where you could see what was going to happen in The Force Awakens, and you anticipated Kylo Ren stabbing and killing Han Solo. This was actually probably my favorite scene in the movie. And I don't know if it's because I lost my dad this year, if that's why it hit me or what it was, but it was one of those that was like, this is really well shot. And, Kylo mentions to Han that, his mother's dead. And Han acknowledges, yeah, your mother is gone. But as long as what she fought for lives on, so will she. And, he brings up, I don't know if I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I'm strong enough to do it. And, Han basically says, yes, you are. And this is where Kylo turns around, chucks his lightsaber into the ocean. Kylo Ren is no more. And at this point in time, Kylo Ren is once again Ben Solo. When I've got a little static. Let me know if that's any better there, Thomas. I had bumped the mic and didn't know if that screwed anything up. See if that helps too. Hopefully that took care of it. I apologize for that. Let me just check the feed real quick, see if I can hear it. got a little static. Okay, I'm not hearing it now, Thomas. Let me know if it comes back though. When they get back to the Resistance base with the Falcon, they all say that they need to find and talk to the general to let her know what's going on, because there's also word that there is from the Emperor's fleet, each of the Star Destroyers is equipped essentially with a planet killer weapon. Think what the Death Star's main weapon was, but now portable on a Star Destroyer. The planet that they had gone to get 3PO to translate what was on the Sith dagger. I don't know. I wasn't hearing it on my end, Thomas, so I'm sorry. I'll have to check some of the settings later on. Sorry about that. He's close to the mic. That's all it is. Could be it. If I sit back, let me know if that's any better, or hell, I'll move the mic back, and you guys let me know if you guys still hear it or not. When they're back at the Resistance base, this is when they all find out that Leia passed. And Poe is now in charge of the Resistance. And he has a moment where, kind of oh shit. It's time for Poe to grow up. And, he's talking to himself and, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm not ready for this. And then you hear a voice that says, none of us are ready for it. And you turn around and Lando's there. Surprise! Maz Kanata's there. Lando's there. Chewie's there. Everybody's there. So, he has a talk with Lando, and basically he's like, you know what? I've got to do this. I've got to take care of this. I've got to take charge. And he goes and he finds Finn. And basically kind of they make up with each other, but, not only do they make up with each other, Finn is now a bomb bad general. Yep, he's made him basically his second in command. Yeah. So we cut back to Rey for a little bit, and we find out that she has gone back to Ahch-To, and she has crashed Kylo Ren's TIE fighter, set it on fire, and she's throwing wood on it to keep it burning and whatnot. And then she decides she's going to take the Skywalker family legacy lightsaber and toss it and burn it. Burn, baby, burn. As she throws it into the fire, it gets caught by Luke Skywalker. And this, to me, again, like I said earlier in this stream, I'm not mincing words in this one. This was the ultimate fuck you to Rian Johnson. And it was awesome. Basically, as Luke walks out of the fire, he looks to Rey and said something to the effect of, a Jedi's weapon should be treated with more respect than that, than to be just cast aside, or something along those lines. It was like, Rian Johnson, we saw what you did right there, buddy, right there. So Rey basically, she did use the Krogan autopilot. So as far as Krogans go, this was a successful landing. Rey and Luke sit down and they basically have a conversation, and she explains that she's had visions of what she can become and that she's afraid of what Palpatine wants to do with her. And, Luke basically tells her that he knew that that she was Palpatine's granddaughter, that Leia knew. And that causes Rey to kind of pause for a second. And basically, Leia knew and she still trained me. And Luke said something to the effect of, family is more than just blood. Family is, basically extended family, so on and so forth. Setting up what's going to happen at the end of this movie, which really pissed me off. even though I knew it was coming. So then Luke talks to her and says, wants her to come with him because there's something he wants to give her. So they go back into his hut. He has her pull out a brick from the wall, because all we are is just a brick in the wall. And inside is Leia's frickin' lightsaber. Yep, they made her a Jedi Knight and he told the story about how it was Leia's last trial to become a Jedi Knight. And she had bested him. And I will tell you, this was the age reversal technology that they used on Mark Hamill looked okay. The age reversal that they did to Carrie Fisher was terrible. It looked like something out of Star Wars Battlefront. SW Fan 2019, who hid Rey on Jakku? Her parents. Her parents actually did that to protect her from her grandfather, essentially. So Luke explained that, as they were fighting and whatnot, and she had basically passed her trial, she had felt that Ben had fallen basically to the dark side, and that she would not pick up a lightsaber again, fearing the dark side, so on and so forth, and wanted him to keep it for safekeeping. It was a lame explanation. I didn't care for it. I don't like the fact that Leia now is a full Jedi Knight. I don't think it was necessary. She had always been, even reading Aftermath, the first Chuck Wendig book from between Jedi and The Force Awakens, she had always been focused more on the political side of things, very similar to Bail Organa. I don't like the idea that she was trained in the Force, that it's not consistent with that character. And maybe if we had something more between episodes 6 and 7, maybe I would have less of an issue with it. But I just, again, it's plot convenience for the sake of being convenient. Completionists, I haven't seen the film yet, so I don't really care about spoilers. I'm actually wrapping presents at this time. What'd you get me, Completionist? So Rey's parents were indeed no one special. No, Rey's parents were and they didn't say which one was the blood, but it was basically her parents were direct descendants from Palpatine. They never say who Palpatine's wife was, who their mother was, or anything like that. But they do say that Palpatine had them killed. Made no bones about it. He killed his own offspring, or he ordered their execution, essentially. So throughout all of this, you have Luke and Rey going back and forth, and she basically, is told by Luke, you need to go back and rejoin the fight. And she's like, I burned my ship. I have no way to get out of here. Oh, wait, Luke's going to go ahead and give her his X-Wing that's been in salt water for years, because electronics in salt water, no problem. Fucking stupid. We go back at this point to the Resistance, and they find out that there is a way actually to defeat the Sith fleet, let's call it, for basically Palpatine's fleet, in the unknown regions. And it's basically that the ships don't have any shields until they get to or shields for fans of Lore Reloaded, until they get to a certain height. They basically can't have shields. And if they disrupt this communications tower, then there's no way that they can make it happen. So what they decide to do is they're going to go ahead and they are going to basically mount one last attack on this fleet. But they got to find out where. Yes, absolutely. Completion says watching that film has made you age prematurely. SW Fan says this trilogy actually might have been one of the best if JJ did all three. I'm not a JJ Abrams fan. I hate what he did to Star Trek, and he did worse to Star Wars, along with Kathleen Kennedy. So what happens is Rey takes off in Luke's X-Wing and pulls the Wayfinder out of the burning hulk of what is Kylo Ren's TIE fighter because it survived the crash. It's Krogan. Plugs it into the X-Wing with RCA jacks, no less. Fucking RCA jack. And goes to Exegol, wherever Palpatine is. But she is broadcasting to the Resistance where she's going so they can follow. So Palpatine was in charge of the First Order the whole time, says SW Fan. Not exactly. He was in charge of his own separate fleet, but he was in control of Snoke the whole time. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense there. So Rey is going to Exegol to finally battle the Emperor and end the whole thing. The fleet goes ahead, and they are getting ready to go and meet up with her and try to take out all of these. Derek asked if there's possible to get a reboot of this trilogy. Nope, I don't, unfortunately. I prefer to think there was 6 movies, not 9. Basically, they get the fleet ready to go and make this last-ditch effort attack because the whole thing is that Palpatine has said he's back again. Tell a friend, whatever that song is. Anyways, but as of if you don't join me and say that you are aligned with me, you will be destroyed. And they gave him arbitrary countdown and everything for that. So basically, they send Chewie and Lando out to gather support from other systems, while this ragtag bunch of a handful of ships gets ready to head towards Exegol. Now, the cool thing about this is the fact that not only do we have X-Wings, we have A-Wings are back. We have my favorite ship of Star Wars, the B-Wing is back. And I actually just rewatched the episode of Rebels recently where the B-Wing became a thing. Y-Wings are back. But they look like they're the older version of the Y-Wings, similar to what they had gotten in Rebels, quite honestly. This movie actually draws quite a bit from Rebels, I think. So they go ahead and with their blockade runner and whatnot, the fleet goes to try to take down the Sith fleet. And this is when you see the inside of these ships. They have basically the officers have red trim on them. The stormtroopers are all red and everything. So I mean, it's the Sith fleet. Thomas says Snoke should have been Plagueis. Would have been interesting. I just would have liked Snoke to have him just be a badass character. He doesn't have to tie into anything original. He could have been something unique. He could have been something from the uncharted regions of space and draw from the EU and stuff like that. Excuse me. So Rey lands on Exegol and goes in and meets up with her grandfather, and the Resistance fleet shows up, and they're starting to fight with the Star Destroyers. And they start launching the fleet and whatnot. And the whole thing is they're going to divide and conquer, where there is, again, since they're in the atmosphere, they're not in space. They're going to go ahead and they're going to have a land attack that takes out this satellite or whatever that's controlling the shield generator and navigation, whatever it is. It's just it's so convoluted and stupid. Because they have to be so high in the altitude before they can raise shields. What? That still makes no sense. And this fleet is huge. Absolutely huge. Decent dogfight starts up. You've got Poe, leading the Dan, you have no idea how much as I'm sitting there watching it going, what? Who? Why? So as Rey, that the aerial combat is starting, Rey goes and approaches Palpatine, and basically he it's so bad. It is so. He basically bloviates, and he does your typical movie bad guy thing where he spills, "This is my plan. So what you're going to do is you are going to strike me down with your lightsaber. And by doing that, I shall be reborn in you, and you shall be Empress." I mean, really, that's actually what his plan was she needs to strike him down with his lightsaber, or her lightsaber. He dies, his spirit goes in her, and takes over the Sith fleet, and she says no initially. And Ben Solo, because he's not Kylo Ren anymore at this point, also lands on this planet somehow with an old Imperial starfighter that is like fucking pristine. Like, came right off the assembly line. Okay, whatever. So he goes in and he's trying to find his way down there. He no longer has the cape. He doesn't have the helmet. He looks like he's in a pair of black PJs or a sweatsuit, quite honestly, is what he looks like. And Rey senses that he's there. Oh, 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 Ben is here. It's like you have Paul Bear. Yes, yes, yes. That's what it felt like. And so, he pronouns pal. Palpatine basically is instructing Rey what he needs her to do, and as this is all going on, it's like they're in a stadium. And these cloaked spirits and everything. Palpatine should go to the ER after his battle with Windu. Yes. We're going to get to that in a minute, too. So basically, he commands her first that, she's going to draw her blade. So she ignites the Skywalker lightsaber. She's going to draw it back. And so she draws it back. And she's going to strike me down. And at this moment, Ben Solo is met by the Knights of Ren, who he's now going to fight. And as she's got the lightsaber behind her back, going to make the death blow, it teleports to Kylo Ren. Now, I missed this earlier on, or I didn't bring it up earlier on, but when they were on that sand planet that looked like Jakku and Tatooine, but wasn't Jakku or Tatooine, but was still just a desert planet, Kylo and Rey had a Force telepathic connection where they're talking to each other, and he grabbed a necklace off of her and teleported it across time and space. And that's how I figured out that was the planet that they were on. So she Force teleports the Skywalker lightsaber to Ben so that he can take out the Knights of Ren and never say anything as far as who they are, what they were, what they did, what their tasks were, or anything like that. Makes them look like a bunch of little bitches. And then with this, she goes ahead and Rey, again, pronouns pal, lights the lightsaber of Leia. So she has Leia's lightsaber. Kylo has Anakin's. And Rey is deflecting blaster bolts and everything back at the guards. It's the same Imperial guards, basically, that we had in Return of the Jedi. And it's just wiping everything out, and you're getting the masses of these Sith ghosts and whatnot on the outside, in the periphery. They're clamoring and getting more rambunctious. Completion says, "Well, if the Christmas alcohol wasn't going to kill your brain cells over the holiday season, this movie certainly did." And cats. Just remember, Solo lost money too. So Rey is doing her best to battle back the guards and everything, and Ben comes in, and they are going to go ahead and take on the Emperor together. except for they don't. They go ahead and basically they are struck down first of all by like some force lightning, and then he again, pronouns Palpatine says, something to the effect of that this is like a vergence in the force with the two of you together, that your strength will add to my own, and he kind of draws some of their essence. And one of the things about Palpatine, this whole thing, is he kind of looks like a zombie, or someone who had been buried and rotted away. So, like, parts of his fingertips and everything are missing. Well, as he's drawing their essence out, you can see he's regenerating. His eyes become, go from this ghosty white, um, uh, because quantum, Dan. Because Disney, because Kathleen Kennedy, because of Jar Jar Abrams. So Palpatine gets some of his essence back. He is now disconnected from the big machine, and this is all going on. The battle up above is going very poorly. They're losing ships left and right, and Poe is feeling like all is lost. He actually takes to as they're turning to him looking for advice, asking what they should do. He apologizes, says he thought that they could win. And then you hear Lando break in and say, "On your left." No, he should have said that, though, because that would have been awesome. And they have absolutely the biggest fleet ever. And they cut inside to the big bad Imperial or the Sith general, essentially, or whoever's leading the fleet. I can't understand where they got all these ships. And another person says they don't have a navy. It's just people. So it's basically people from other systems who have ships. I mean, there's Mon Calamari cruisers and medical free. I mean, there's big freaking ships here. There's the Ghost from Rebels is there. We never hear an acknowledgement of Syndulla or anything like that. Never hear Chopper. None of that stuff. Sabine isn't mentioned. But the Ghost is there. And it turns the battle in their favor. They managed to go ahead. They knew that they were trying to take down the one satellite that managed the communications to all the ships. They powered that down and they transferred it basically to the lead Star Destroyer, and they start taking that thing out. Back down on the surface, basically the dome where Palpatine is in opens up, and Rey can see that the fleet and everything is getting just waxed up there. And Palpatine draws more strength from him and from the two of them. And then he makes a comment like, when the last Skywalker I faced threw me down a pit, so only appropriate that the same thing happens to you. And he basically takes Ben Solo and throws him down just a gorge. And then in one of the worst pieces of special effects I've seen in the entire saga, and that's going back to the original film in 77. Palpatine basically says he's got the strength now where he can take out the fleet from the ground where he's at, launches a volley of force lightning to take out all the other ships and whatnot. And it's basically like a big EMP. Takes out everything. And they don't crash right away, but they're falling with style. Rey basically is, she's on the floor. She's not dead yet, but she is in a lot of pain and whatnot. She's close to death. And then you start hearing the voices of the Jedi of the past. You hear Anakin as Hayden Christensen. You hear Mace Windu. You hear Luke. You hear Leia. You hear Yoda. You hear Obi-Wan. You hear Qui-Gon. Now, I was listening very carefully, and I did not hear her. However, Ashley Eckstein, whatever, Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Ashley Eckstein was credited in the credits as voicing Ahsoka Tano. So J.J. Abrams fucking killed Ahsoka Tano, because the only way you can be a Force ghost is if you're a ghost and if you're dead. Let that sink in. One of the most beloved characters to come out of the non-prime canon movies, Ahsoka Tano. They killed her. No, Return of the Jedi was good. So they all transfer, all these Force ghosts, and you never see them, you only hear the voices. They basically put all of their power into her so she can go ahead and fight the Emperor one last time. And she stands, and she's, a little bloody. Definitely worse for wear. You can see that she's taken some battle damage. And he stops the Force lightning against the fleet, to which the ships miraculously recover. They can start flying again. Battle up in the stars or in the atmosphere continues. He turns the Force lightning on her, but instead of blocking it or anything like that with like how Yoda did in Revenge of the Sith, she blocks it with Leia's lightsaber. She uses the Force to call for Anakin's lightsaber, basically puts them in an X pattern, and reflects the Force lightning back at Palpatine. Basically, exactly like Return of the Sith, or Revenge of the Sith, I'm sorry, in the battle with Mace Windu. And I thought I mentioned it, but you do hear Mace Windu's voice in All the Jedi. And the best way I can describe what happens is, if you remember what happened to the Nazis when they opened the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones and um, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the faces kind of melt. It was that exact same stuff. And here's the thing. Okay, the Force lightning's being reflected at you. I think you would stop sending out the Force lightning from your fingertips. But that's all that there was to that scene and whatnot. Palpatine basically explodes, and Rey collapses. Up in the sky, you can see the fleet. The Resistance fleet is getting the best out of the Sith fleet. They blow up the command ship and everything. This is Return of the Jedi all over again. Dan says, I feel like force choking myself. You can force choke your chicken. Thomas says, an edited battle, the Emperor versus Baby Yoda in the Senate chamber, I saw is better than this. I would pay to see that. I would happily pay to see that. I would pay to go see Attack of the Clones again before having to pay to see this. So up above the stars and everything, the day is won. They destroy the entire fleet, the Sith fleet. Everybody is dead up there. That is part of First Order, Sith fleet, whatever you want to call it. Palpatine is dead down below. All of a sudden, you see a hand coming out of the pit, because of course you did. Ben is not dead. He crawls over to Rey, who is dead. Let me repeat that. Rey dies in this movie. But because you can't have one of the two of them die without a kiss, yeah, Thomas, go ahead. Email me, rocksolidmail@gmail.com. I'll check it out. Thank you. So he goes and basically imbues his Force essence into her. Rey's alive! And they kiss. And she says, Ben. Because he's Ben again. He's not Kylo, he's Ben. And all that she's wanted is to be with Ben. And then he dies. He dies so she can live. This is where one of the two biggest issues I have with this film. Everything leading up to this has always been a saga of fall and redemption. The fall of Anakin Skywalker took 3 movies. The redemption took 3 more. But in the end, the person who fell was redeemed. It would have meant a lot to have had Rey, who was of Palpatine blood, sacrifice herself so that not just Kylo could live, but for the entire galaxy. The Matrix, Neo was the Christ figure. Life with Matthew. Hey, Rock Solid. It was really bad. Just got back too. I'm sorry. But thanks for coming by and checking out what we're talking about here. We're getting towards the end of the movie, and we're gonna talk about a couple other things here. I would have really liked if Rey sacrificed herself for the greater good. Obi-Wan sacrificed himself for the greater good. Luke sacrificed himself in The Last Jedi for the greater good. And given the title of this movie, The Rise of Skywalker, Ben had Skywalker blood in him. But that wasn't the agenda. Rey had to be the most bestest, powerfulest, strongest Jedi ever. And so Rey was given the life force of Ben Solo so she could live, and he died. I just didn't care for that. From here, the fleet goes back to the planet that they were on. And Life with Matthew, if you can put the name of that planet, I don't remember what it was, if you want to put it in chat. And you see around the galaxy, not only, people are not only celebrating, but you get a shot of Coruscant. And for some reason, a Star Destroyer falls out of the sky there. You see Endor with Ewoks and Wicket. Yes, Wicket W. Warlock is in this movie. Just for a brief second, but he's there. Star Destroyer blows up. Basically, any Star Destroyer in the galaxy, because this Sith fleet got destroyed, well, they got destroyed too. Why? That makes no sense. None. Zero. So the celebration begins, and you have, everybody kind of hugging and squeezing and whatnot. And Leia's body disappears from the bed, just like Yoda's did in Return of the Jedi. Ben's body disappears, breaking canon. It is explained in canon, in the Clone Wars animated series, which is canon, in the final season, how Yoda learned to become one with the Force so that people can commune with the dead. Obi-Wan got that training. It is referenced in Revenge of the Sith. Luke supposedly got that training. I'll even grant you, if she was considered to be a Jedi Master, Luke told Leia. How the hell does Ben Solo know how to do that? It is never explained. That was Exegol. That's where the Emperor was on Exegol. I'm talking the Forest Moon they were on. That looks like Endor. That wasn't Endor, but might as well be Endor. Just because you are a Force sensitive and you die does not mean that you are suddenly one with the Force. There was specific training that you had to go through to be able to do that. Ben Solo never received that. So I have an issue with that, a very big issue with that. The prequels seem a lot better lately, according to Derek. The Attack of the Clones is bad. You can't say that it wasn't. Episode 1, and actually the first 2 episodes could have really been one movie with a time jump in there, going from we meet Anakin as a kid, he's a slave, wins the pod race, goes to get trained, now he's a teenager, so on, so on, so on, so on. And then actually get a movie after Revenge of the Sith that would have further bridged, basically like what Rebels covered. Quite honestly, it would have been pretty fun, I think. There's just so much that this movie breaks. We get our one LGBTQ pander in the movie is in the ending celebration, where, and I don't know who it is, but or what the character's name is, but if you remember in The Last Jedi, you have the woman who is a commander who looked. I always thought she looked like a shrew because she's got a huge schnoz and everything. And I'm not saying that to be mean to her. It's a very defining quality. She's the one that basically announces that Akbar is dead, that Leia is in a coma, and that General Haldo is the one in charge. No, not yet, Thomas. Thomas asked if I think Anti-Trekker is getting pissed off yet. I don't think he's getting pissed off yet. I give him another 20 minutes. We are going to see red turds tomorrow, that's for sure. But the that woman, Commander General, whatever her name is, basically kissing her same-sex lover as they're celebrating. It was subtle enough. It was innocuous enough, and it's easily edited out for the Chinese market. So there's that. Life with Matthew says, why do they keep focusing on her nose too? Every shot with her in The Last Jedi had her turning. Dude, you are... yes! Life with Matthew, you nailed it. You get a super chat reward for that. Give me a number 1 to 11. You get one. Because that is a great point. And she wasn't a dislikable character or anything like that. It just, she had a very noticeable physical quality. Rey flies back from Exegol to where the fleet is and everything in Luke's X-Wing again. They basically call, Red 5 coming in for a landing. And, she kind of has her little bit of celebration with Rey and I'm sorry, not Rey, but Poe and Finn. We again, at the end of this movie, we never find out where Maz Kanata got the Skywalker lightsaber from. Let's see. Dan says, I like how the Clone Wars animated series tied all the sequels together, made them seem a little bit less not good. I will say the definitive version of Anakin Skywalker is the Clone Wars, and with Matthew wants to see number 8. We are going to give you number 8 in a second here, as soon as I find it. Where is it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
There you go, number 8. Always a favorite. Kind of what I left the theater thinking. Actually, I never want to see 8 again. 8 was The Last Jedi. Damn you, Life with Matthew. So in the end, Swamper and Greenie finally succumbed to the ways of Harold. And in doing so, each gave just a little bit of his soul away. What a couple of dumb shit. Sorry, had to throw some Primus Herald of the Rocks in there. They have their whole celebration. Oh, my favorite cameo of the entire movie. During the battle, Wedge Antilles firing the guns on the Falcon. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely love that. Dennis Lawson was back. Loved it. That was one of them that I liked. So in the end, Rey flies off to Tatooine in the Falcon with Chewie and everything and everyone, and goes back to the Lars homestead. And again, everything we had heard rumor-wise was confirmed in this. She buries the Skywalker lightsabers, Luke and Leia. She wraps them up both right there after kind of surveying the homestead. And a woman comes by, says, says something to the effect of, no one's been around these parts for a long time. Who are you? And she goes, Rey. And then the old woman goes, Rey who? And I turned to my wife and I said, please don't have her say it. Please don't have her say it. Please don't have her say it. Rey Skywalker. End fanfare. She's not a fucking Skywalker. She's a Palpatine. She is not a Skywalker. That's like me saying that my last name is Hamill because I want to be related to Mark Hamill. It was so bad. So what did I like about this? I will admit, not much. Let's see. No Blu-ray collector's edition for me. Dan, here's the interesting thing. So I own a copy of. Do I own a copy of Solo? You know, I don't even know that I own a copy of Solo. I'll have to take a look at my Blu-rays, and I can't quite see them from here. I own all 6 original movies. I own a copy of Rogue One. Like I said, I don't think I own a copy of Solo, and I don't own a copy of The Last Jedi. I will not be buying this either. I will not be going to see. This is not a movie that gets better if you see it a second time. Let's see. Thomas says, "Oh my God, the guy I saw made a video of Baby Yoda with the Yoda in his hut." That's funny. Life with Matthew. How about having Luke and Leia standing close together as the loving mom and dad? Oh yes, that was the other. We talked about that earlier. Thank you, Life with Matthew, for bringing that up. So at the end, as she's pondering, when the old woman, right here, when she asked her that, she turns to her side and she sees the Force ghosts of Luke and Leia sitting there or standing there in the shadows of the twin suns on Tatooine, like her loving parents who were brother and frickin' sister. Yeah. So I like the fact that they brought in more ships besides just X-Wings. I love the B-Wing fighter. That has always been my favorite Rebellion ship. And they had B-Wings in this. The lightsaber battles were terrible. They really were. I don't know if it was Daisy Ridley or if it was the way that the scenes were written and directed and choreographed. She always looked exhausted as she was fighting. Throughout the entire 3 Disney Star Wars movies, never, not once, did Kylo Ren, who was trained to be a Jedi Knight by Luke, had his skills, honed by Snoke, who was combat tested, never once did he best Rey in a lightsaber battle. Not once. And that's what makes her such a Mary Sue, at least in a lot of ways. Luke had to fail in Empire to make his success mean as much as it did in Jedi. It's like Dooku said in Revenge of the Sith. It was twice the pride, double the fall. When you have something to lose and redeem yourself for, it means more than just, oh, it just happens. It just works. Let's see. Thomas says, I have Solo, but not Rogue One. Even though I like Rogue One more, Solo was on sale. How is Rise of Skywalker? Because she said so. Everyone who came out, and for those, I know I've got some of my video game crowd in here who may not know of this YouTuber. Check out, there's a YouTuber named Dictor Van Doomcock. Don't let the name kind of throw you off. He is a sharp dude with good contacts and has a fun method of delivery for his channel. He basically had everything that happened spot on except for one point. He had said, and there were supposedly 3 cuts. There was a JJ cut, there was a Lucas cut, and there was a Kathleen Kennedy / Bob Iger cut of this film. And in 2 out of the 3 versions of this film that had been done, the Falcon blew up, Lando died, Chewie died, 3PO and R2 died. That is the only thing that I recall that Doomcock said that didn't happen. Everything else, from the last line of the film to the opening crawl to Ben crawling out of the pit and giving his life force to Rey, to he had it nailed. And people out there, I don't know him personally. I don't know Doomcock. But people who called him, a no good, full of shit YouTuber who won't even show his face because he wears a mask in his videos. You know what? You guys can suck it. Doomcock was right. He had this nailed. And unlike The Last Jedi, which was a bad movie because of its political agenda, this was a bad movie because of its story, its pacing. Terrible. And it basically, in the end, the first 6 movies didn't frickin' matter. Anakin's fall and redemption didn't matter. The Rebel Alliance winning the day at the end of Jedi didn't matter. The fact that, that Luke Skywalker started a new Jedi Academy and whatnot didn't matter. None of it mattered. The Force being a transporter was weird to me, but I did like the movie focus more on Poe, Finn, and Rey relationships. I will say I didn't mind Kelly Marie Tran as, what's her name? Why can't I think of her name? Anyways, her character, she didn't bug me at all. She actually had things to do. She added value. We never saw, I just realized this, we never saw DJ. We never saw DJ back in this movie. So what did I like about it? I like the ships. I thought that they tastefully handled Carrie Fisher's passing. I thought that she was kind of forced in there in a couple of spots. So the way that Carrie Fisher was basically in there was you saw a lot of the back of someone playing Carrie Fisher. Thank you, Life with Matthew, Rose Tico. Non-political, no wonder why SJWs don't like it. Exactly. And the number of times it gave a big finger to Rian Johnson. I mean, that I liked. Luke catching the lightsaber was kind of but the fact that, he said that you should never mistreat a Jedi's weapon like that was, I think, very, very well stated. I don't know that there's anything else. I did like, one other thing that happened at the end of this movie as well is you did have Maz call Chewie over. And I don't know if this was Han's to begin with and that Leia had been holding on to it. But Chewie got a medal. And that was good. It would have been nice if it was still Peter Mayhew. Unfortunately, we've lost him. At the end of this movie, the only 2 original characters that are still around, in canon, in the movies at least, are Billy D. Williams as Lando and Chewie. They're the only 2 left. So what did I not like about it? I didn't like the soundtrack. This is probably the worst John Williams soundtrack I've ever heard. The story, it felt both rushed and like it dragged. The reports where I've seen of people where they say, "Oh, Krillin is over on Twitch. How you doing, my friend?" Solo Dice were not in the movie, and at this point, if you guys want to ask questions, and I'll answer as best that I can too. I just thought the soundtrack was very weak. There were a couple audio cues that were very good when they got to. Oh, good deal. Krillin's been on the Twitch side of things for a bit. Good. Let me know how that's looking and sounding, everything, my friend. When Rey is walking through the Emperor's throne room, you hear just the very subtle dun 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 dun. It's the same, and it could be the same piece as when Vader dies in the second Death Star. It had that same cadence to it, the same pitch, that same subtlety and I thought that was actually very well done. Let's see. Twitch has been running great, smooth, and sounding good too. All right, awesome. Thank you. I thought the Hux was a worthless character from the first movie, and him getting blasted in the chest. I didn't care. Didn't care about that. At the end of the original 3 movies, I cared about Luke and Leia and Lando and Admiral Akbar and all right, Krillin is off to bed now. Good night, my friend. It's I cared about those characters and I wanted to see more, and I was bummed that I didn't get to see more. And then in the prequel trilogy, the dialogue was terrible. And I blame George Lucas for that. He's never been strong at doing dialogue. But you could see the character evolution of all of the characters in those movies. Even though you knew it was going to happen, you could see the conflict within Anakin as he fell to the dark side. At the same time, you could also see the bond between him and Obi-Wan and how that fall was going to tear those two brothers apart. You cared about, obviously the future of Luke and Leia as they were born in there. And even in the Clone Wars and Rebels, you got to care about Anakin. You got to care about Ahsoka. You got to care, about Rex and Wolf and Fives and all those characters. Later on, you got to, care about the crew of the Ghost and Ezra and Syndulla and all those characters. I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about Poe. I don't care about Finn. I don't care about Rey. Let's see. Derek says at least we got something good this year with Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order. Still haven't played Jedi Fallen Order yet. I really want to. Life with Matthew. Yeah, classic themes were used more to trick us into feeling a feeling rather than to create a mood that creates a true emotional response. Well put. Now, Life with Matthew, let me ask you this. And I brought this up before you had come in. When Rey and Kylo are fighting on the wreckage and dueling on the wreckage of the second Death Star with the lightsabers, in my theater, there was no music during those sections. Did you have anything in your theater? Who was General Pride supposed to be? Christopher Walken played him. I have General Pride. I don't know who you're talking about, Life with Matthew. General Pride. Let me Google that real quick. Yeah, Matthew says that he doesn't remember any music either. Yeah, I thought that was weird, and that's where the first time we heard Duel of the Fates in any of the trailers was when they were fighting there. You never heard Duel of the Fates. Okay, Pride was Pryde. Okay, he was the guy that the actor. What was his name? I can't remember the actor's name, but I'll kind of put it up there. Hopefully that shows up there. He's the guy basically that shot Hux. He was just an okay character, I thought. I just Zori Bliss. That's who. What's her name? Kerry Russell played. I know a lot of people have, or not a lot, but I've heard some people say that they wanted to see a movie just with her. I didn't think she was all that interesting. Yeah, they never really said who he was during the Galactic Empire. Um, and I would have liked to have seen or heard something more about that, but they never really said about it anything about that. Let's see, Star Wars 9 Rise. I'm looking up some information here if they have anything. Pride, who we don't have a backstory for, talks to Palpatine of serving him in the old wars. So that's all. That's all that we have for him. So he was a new character, but just someone that I guess at some point had served the Emperor when the Empire was still a thing. There's just so much. I'm choosing to look at the sequel trilogy from Disney as Life with Matthew says this freaking movie. There are 6 movies, just like there are 4 lights. There are 6 movies, and I just don't see myself going back and watching any of these. And I'm hoping. I hate to say this. I'm hoping it bombs so that there is no chance that Kathleen Kennedy gets her contract renewed in 2020. I would like to see Filoni in charge more so than Jon Favreau, just because. All right, Dan, thank you so much. I'm out in a minute here too because it's after 1 in the morning and I got to get up in the morning. Um, I think Dave Filoni really has a good feeling for the lore, having been so deeply involved with it for so long. Not that I'm saying Favreau has not done a good job with Mandalorian, because he's done a decent job. I don't like it as much as some other people do, but I don't hate it. Disney. I don't even blame Disney on this, because I look at what Disney has done with Marvel, and Marvel has there has not been a single bad Marvel movie. There have been some better than others, but I would say in the entire, we'll call it the Thanos arc, in 20 or 22 movies, whatever that is. There have been movies I like more than others, but there is not one that if I was said you have to watch this and you can't leave until you watch the whole thing. There's not one that I've seen that. Even Captain Marvel, which was and most of the is because Brie Larson is just a tool. Um, Incredible Hulk, I don't necessarily consider that to be part of the Thanos arc, because that kind of predates the Iron Man movies, and I associate Iron Man with the start of that arc. They've mixed in with, is it Thunderbolt Ross? Is that what his name is? They've added some of that to it, but I guess I consider those to be kind of like the Mandalorian to Star Wars, where I don't see it as it's canon, but it's not like primary canon, if that makes sense. And maybe it's because I'm choosing to look at them that way. And maybe that's how I will look at these 3 movies, is kind of how I look at the Incredible Hulk standalone movies in regards to the MCU. Freaking J.J. Abrams. I mean, he ruined Star Trek, crapped all over 50 years of canon. And I'm not even a huge fan of the original series. If any of you have been on any of the Anti-Trekkers streams with me, I've mentioned how much I am not a fan of the original TV series. I think the first Incredible Hulk came out before Iron Man, but I could be wrong. Life with Matthew. I just know that that's kind of what I associate, and I think a lot of people associate the kickoff for the MCU is Iron Man. Or Thomas said that. I'm sorry, I may have said Life with Matthew. Palpatine didn't need to be involved in this. It didn't. He didn't. And I know some of that is having to clean up the mess that Ruan Johnson made. One before Iron Man, and then the Incredible Hulk after. Okay. And I think part of that too is Paramount did such a bad job at the time promoting him. I don't always kind of think of those. Plus, you had the actor Eric Bana played initially, and then who played it? I'm sick. I can't remember who. Edward Norton. Yeah, with 22 movies, it is hard to remember. And that's where I look at Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger talking about franchise fatigue. Don't give me that shit. Just don't. MCU comes out with 3 to 5 movies a year. And they're coherent, they're self contained, they work well. They have done nothing with the Star Wars movies. I am. No, Super 8 was not a good JJ movie. I hated that movie. Hated it. I have never seen a JJ movie I have liked or a TV show. Oh, what the hell? They had was it Mary or Pippin from Lost, and Lord of the Rings was in there too. Why? You have the one guy, the Greg whatever that's in every single JJ movie, fine, whatever. But now you had the other dude too. It was unnecessary. Oh, here is my favorite part of this entire movie. The end credits. And here's why. Carrie Fisher gets top billing. I thought, for whatever my criticisms are of J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, giving Carrie Fisher top billing was the right move. And I am glad that they did that, and I'm thankful that they did that, and I appreciate that they did that. Above and beyond that, I understand why those who are SJWs and the woke type dislike this in the media, but at the same time, I don't know who the hell this movie is for, because it doesn't please the SJWs who loved Rian Johnson's movies, and I don't think that it's going to really please the core audience either. This is a movie without an audience. Rise of Skywalker gave you the lost flashbacks with the plot elements thrown at you like a face full of bird shit in the first few minutes. Yeah, I watched the first 3 episodes of Lost. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm good. And speaking of being out, being done, being good, I think I am out. I am done. I am not good. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is not good. Yeah. What happened to our franchise? I don't know. Here is to a brighter future now that this trilogy is over, that we can hopefully move on from. I can honestly, the way that was there a smoke monster? There was not a smoke monster. There wasn't even a Snoke monster. The way that they buried the Skywalker lightsabers, Luke and Leia's lightsabers in the sands, I can see them time jumping several generations in the future on Tatooine and having someone find them, generations after the Jedi are once again gone. Here's the thing, and this was actually set up in The Last Jedi. If you have a powerful light, there must be a powerful dark to meet it for balance to occur in the Force. With only Rey as the only Jedi, and with the Sith wiped out, there is no balance to the Force. And there's no balance to this trilogy. There's no balance to this movie. I'm sorry, but it's a terrible movie. It just is. And for very different reasons than The Last Jedi, which insulted my philosophies and my belief system. This is just a bad movie. Life with Matthew, you get the last question, but what color will Leia's saber be? It was green on the last day of training, but blue by the time they fought the Emperor. And I noticed that too, that there was no continuity to that. Yes, Leia's and Luke's lightsabers were both blue when they were fighting the Emperor, but when they were training, it was green. The only thing I can think of is that she had not built her lightsaber when she was going through the trials, and that she built it afterwards. But then where did that green lightsaber come from? Rey's lightsaber is yellow, and I know that the colors denote, a specific strength in the Force. Captain MKG, so we can anticipate a movie 30 years from now with Rey being the Yoda of the Jedi. She is 950. May the Force help us all. Yes, and I'm hoping, and I'm going to leave you guys on this because I do have to get up for work in 5.5 hours. Holy shit. This is a trilogy of missed potential. It is something that we wanted another trilogy, but what we wanted was a good trilogy. We wanted something that we could escape reality for 2.5 hours versus having, and people claim, oh, Trek has always been political. It has been, but it's never been ham-fisted and heavy-handed with it. We wanted escapism from everyday problems. That is why A New Hope did so well, is because of the national malaise. It gave people a place to escape to. And what this trilogy did was double down on the malaise, double down on the divisiveness, and double down on political agendas. If you look at the classics that the original 3 movies were, yes, there's some political statements in there. They are more about the spirit of the soul, about the spirit of the individual, about the spirit of good versus evil. And in this movie, or this trilogy, there were no absolute good, no absolute evil. It was all shades of gray. There was no downfall and redemption. There was nothing substantive here. And at the end of the day, I look at Kathleen Kennedy and I blame her. I blame Rian Johnson. And I blame J.J. Abrams for squandering an opportunity and ignoring the built-in audience that they had. I know I've seen some people that claim that this movie is for the normies. No, it's really, even my wife, who is like, she's seen The Last Jedi once when we saw it in the theaters. Even she was like, eh. She had less of an issue with Rey being a Skywalker than I did, but I just, out of all 9 movies, this was my second to least favorite. It is better than The Last Jedi, simply because it's not so heavy-handed with its politics and basically insulting me. I would have to say the sequel Disney trilogy are my least 3 favorite movies. I would put the order from worst to best as The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, The Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, The Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. That's my order, not counting the Solo and Rogue One. I would put Solo and Rogue One after the sequel trilogy, but before the prequel trilogy. Can you watch this film without 7 or 8? No. You can get by without seeing 8, but then you're going to wonder, like, why is Rey dead? Why is Snoke dead? So there's I would definitely. I hate to say that you need to see all three. You'll understand more if you see all three. Guys, gals out there, I want to thank you for hanging out with me. Like Captain MKG said at the start of the stream, this has been basically group therapy for all of us. I hope that coming out of this, the last thing, and I'm going to sign off with this. Going into The Force Awakens, Hello Greedo had a saying, "In JJ we trust." I never trusted JJ going in The Force Awakens because I didn't like what he did to Star Trek. My concerns, at least in my mind, were justified. They were spot on. And those who claim that Doomcock was full of crap owe him a huge apology. That is going to do it for us here tonight. We will be back soon with some more video game streams. And until then, I'm going to leave you with this gem.
Hello, Sonic. I changed my ways, and to celebrate, drink this punch. Wait! Drink it, or I'll revert your movie design back to the original. Ha ha ha, you fool! You should have known that this punch is spiked! It's the police snooping as usual. Dr. Ivo Robotnik, you're under arrest for corrupting a minor. How have I done that? That blue creature is only 15 to 16 years old. You shouldn't be giving them alcohol. No, spiked is wordplay for— You have the right to remain silent, Doctor.
Good night, everyone.